dungeon. We picked up a couple of books here and there. This is lore. An ancient tome that smells of burning hair. Apparently Elon Musk has left one of his tomes. Relevant humor. And Wreckage analysis report. Submitted in triplicates. Alright. Prime designate. I'm ready to confirm that the wreckage discovered on our shores was indeed the remains of our most recent expedition to Avaloren. There were no survivors. This marks the third failed attempt to reach the accursed place in the time since I assumed my post. While I would not presume to question either your authority or your determination, I pray to the Titans that the rumor I hear of a fourth expedition are mere speculation rather than facts. Surely you can see that further pursuit of the heretics is folly. Yes, they must be made to answer for the crimes against Inaria and the other keepers. But their defenses are not to be underestimated. The resources required to breach their lines are simply beyond our current capabilities. At least, not without jeopardizing containment of the prisoners in our charge. Though I agree, there is risk in allowing their strength to grow. Evidence suggests that the aggressive nature of the heretics will cause them to turn on one another and weaken their resolve. If we can be patient, an opportunity for retribution will present itself. I beseech you, Prime Designate. Let the fire of your wrath cool, at least for now. Its embers will be rekindled in due time. If not, I fear I will soon be offering yet another report of a lost expedition, its final remnants dashed upon rock and wave. With all respects, Watcher Perifalus. Perifalus. Alright, so expedition to what now? Expedition... Wait. I read a location here and there. Where was it? Avaloren. Avaloren. Is that a name? Avaloren. Is that what they used to call the Dragon Isles? Nah. I don't know where that is. Avaloren. Let's find out. Hey, yo, Google. Avaloren. What's that? Avaloren is literally a term that came about like 8 to 16 hours ago. So, apparently this is the first time that we, you know. So, I'm kind of got the feeling a Prime Designate would be Keeper Odin. And I kind of got the feeling they were talking about the time where Tyr and Iron-Aya, like, discovered the corruption of Loken? I don't know. I need to do a little bit more research. But we got another one. Keepers! It's been brought to my attention that as of late, many of you have become fascinated by the emergence of mortal beings. That is, creatures born of flesh, rather than crafted of stone and steel like our loyal Titan forged. While my initial impulse was to eradicate these aberrations before they evolved any further, I now believe that it may be proved useful if properly controlled. Yeah, even as we guide the developments according to the edicts of the Titans, we must always remember that mortal minds are destined to be small and incapable of complex understanding. Therefore, as your Prime Designate, I must establish a few minor, but necessary regulations to govern your interactions with these nascent beings. First of all historical records documenting the advancements of the Black Empire are to be purged. Paint that age as one of chaos and misery. A pernicious blight that we keepers eradicated. With the old gods locked in confinement, there should be no evidence available to contradict our assertions. Surely, if you care for these mortals, you would not wish to see them led astray into darkness. Second, attribute all accomplishments and works of wonders to the Titans and the Titans alone. Despite the relentlessness arguments made by some of you, this is not a fallacy. After all, can anything truly be said to exist until it has been ordered? Of course not. Therefore, it is irrefutable that the Titans are the source of all creation. Thirdly, do not share knowledge of the first ones. Mortals could not conceive of the wonders that the Makers granted to the Titans in Zeref Ordus. Thus, learning of the progenitors would only confuse them. It is enough that mortals know the Titans brought order to the cosmos, and that they are owed deference. While some among you would prefer to argue these points further, Such debate can no longer be tolerated. I remind you that I speak with the authority of the Titans, and any further dissent may cause me to question whether you've succumbed to outside influences. Remember, life is chaos. It must be controlled. Your leader, Prime Designate Odin. The drop of the music was on cue. Holy shit. What's happening here is that my Warcraft Chronicles book was full of lies then. Correct. So, it's not new. And is it interesting? Very much depends on where they're going to take this. So, what's happening is that once upon a time, Titans brought order to Azeroth. They dropped all these keepers to wage war against the Black Empire and the enslaved elemental lords. The Black Empire was the time when the old gods used to rule the planet. War was waged, old gods were defeated and imprisoned within the world. And then they left the Titans behind. Odin was like the Prime Designate, he was the boss of them all. And being creatures of the Titans means that they come from the domain of order. They come from order, right? So what happens is that at some point, Keeper Tyr decided that after the events with Galakrond and whatnot, that they could use more defense for the world of Azeroth. So he decided that they were going to make the dragon aspects, and Odin was like, no, we're not. And they were like, yeah, we are. And Odin was like, no, we're not. And they were like, yeah, we are. And Odin was like, oh, if you do that, I'm going to take a wing of Ulduar, and I'm going to put it in the sky, and I'm going to call it my Halls of Valor, and you're not invited. And they were like, you go ahead and do that. We're going to make our dragon aspects. So Odin has a long time. That's nothing new. Calling mortals small-minded. Odin is... And that we stand at his side time and time again is ridiculous, but it also falls in line with we don't know the entire story. So Odin being condescending in the book is nothing new. What we do see is that the documents about the days of the Black Empire, they are scoured by the Keepers. History is being erased, and this is very much in line with what happened earlier when Steve Denniser at BlizzCon... Yeah, I'm going to look for the other books later, Ezekiel. Thank you, buddy. Just going to go through this one first. That Steve Denniser at BlizzCon said that the Chronicles are written from a point of view, meaning that even though they were advertised and sold under the idea of we're going to clean up the lore, with new leadership, they've decided, look, this is point of view kind of stuff. This is the Titans writing history, which is once again confirmed in-game. The information that we have of the Black Empire is false. We don't know all the details. The Titans have erased any and all that we knew. And especially interesting is that they say... the advancements of the Black Empire, which kind of makes you wonder, like, was the Black Empire this advanced empire where they had technology that we only came about later? Because we don't know a whole lot about the Black Empire. We know that it existed. We know that the elemental lords were enslaved, but what exactly did the Black Empire entail? Now, ultimately, the details are actually quite interesting, and I'm kind of curious how they're going to develop this further, because the Titans are going to get a more, or at least the Titan Keepers, but potentially also the Titans in turn. They're going to be more the bad guy, rather than they're purely holy and good and they brought everything nice to the world. However, if the choice is between order and the chaos of the old gods, like, just think back to how many times the old gods caused trouble on the world. Think back how many times we had to stand up against them, not just because of the meddling of the Titans, but because of what the old gods were trying to do. I think it would be weird to turn the old gods and the Void into suddenly a force that we should not have stand up against. But that's not necessarily what they're doing here. They're just adding different tints to a story already told. They're adding more details to it, and I'm all for that. That is great. And we're going to find out how that's actually going to evolve further. So it's very much like Order is a cosmic force in the universe, and they're going to dive further into what does it mean to be from the category of Order, right? Which also flows into a more general view behind the storylines of the Dragon House. because on the Dragon Isles, a big portion of the storyline as it starts off with is that we got the dragons, and the dragons are like this ordered race. They are empowered by the keepers, by the titans. Therefore, they are considered creatures of order. You also see that certain mages are being captured and tortured merely for the fact because they use arcane magic, order magic. Whereas on the other side, you got like the proto-dragons, very elemental. They're very much like, roar, we should never have been contained, never have been imprisoned. Your order stuff is crazy, and we should actually go back to how it was primordial before the Titanic influences. And that's actually the war that we jump into when it comes to the Dragon Isles. So all of that, so far, so good. I'm quite curious how the details are going to go. So the Titans being credited for the source of all creation, the whole ordering of the universe. This brings us to the first ones. And when it comes to the first ones, this is a concept introduced in the Shadowlands. And safe to say that the story of the Shadowlands was not well received. But I don't think that the first ones are without merit. I don't think that the first ones are a failed concept just because they're the first ones. I just think that they need to make some changes. And what I think they need to change, mainly, is that the first ones predestined our path. Because as it stands right now, for those unaware, the first ones have guided our path, our adventures, our everything, since the dawn of creation. The jailer is being credited for being responsible for the story of Warcraft, which is true. The jailer has manipulated, predicted the future, set up stones and steps in order for us to go to the Shadowlands, and there are clear signs where the first ones were able to predict that we were going to show up at just the right time to stop the jailer, yada yada yada. So the first ones have created this web, this whole universe, this Warcraft where they ordered it and they brought it together, and this whole meticulous plan which culminated at the end of the Shadowlands. But the problem with that kind of storytelling is that it removes agency of the story. It removes choice. It removes the impact that stories have when it comes to characters. So for example, when Sylvanas was judged for her crimes, they were like, yo, we can sense the taint of the jailer upon you. And they were almost going to go lenient on her. It was that she spoke out and she was like, look, it was my own choices. But were they? Because everything has the taint of the jailer on it. Everything has the taint of the first ones on it. Everything. From the dawn that we started to the end of the Shadowlands, everything has the taint of the first ones. And I would love for them to change that into something more akin to the first ones didn't predict and just lay out a road, but more they created the basic formula, and from that formula, choice happened. And from choice, new directions formed, new paths, new arcways, which not even the first ones were able to predict. That would be way more interesting, because now, and this is also a storyline that I think they were touching upon in Shadowlands, and a storyline that I think they were trying to touch upon a Battle for Azeroth, but never really pushed forward. Because then, you're gonna come with like, okay, there's like this petri dish in which they have like this basic formula of a universe, but even beyond their wildest imagination, these mortal minds, these small-minded things were able to grow, able to evolve into pathways that they were unable to see. This is something that we saw with a keeper Raden, who showed up at the Heart of Azeroth, and looked at Mother, and looked at what we did there. And he was like, whoa! You guys have been able to set up defenses against N'Zoth. You've been able to get like the Heart of Azeroth going and defend Azeroth's soul. I never imagined you were able to do this. And Mother was a creation of Raden. The children surpassing the parents, a storyline mimicked by Deathwing and Rephion, by Varian and Anduin. There were all these little building blocks that they were like hinting at a storyline in that direction, but never really succeeded. So I would love for it to have the first ones not to be like a set road, like a set predictable force that is able to, eons in the past, be able to predict, like, okay, they need portals on these specific locations because they are the prophesized Maulwalkers. I would rather have it that the first ones brought order to the universe, they brought like these little elements in between, and that is how the universe started to grow on its own. That is how I would like to see the first ones evolve. And beyond that, it's okay, so we have In this book, it says Zeref Ordis. So we got Zeref Mortis, which is the Death Realm, and now sorry, the name is so basic. How are we gonna call the Zeref of the Domain of Order? Oh, I don't know. Let's call it Ordis. Sorry. Anyways, there's a Zeref Mortis for the Domain of Death. There's now a Zeref Ordis for the Domain of Order. You can assume that there's a Zeref Lifus for the Domain of Life, a Zeref Chaosus. So those are out. That is confirmed. So opinion-wise, it is very much about where are they going to take this. Where are they going to take this? And I'm really, really curious to see. And I understand that there's pessimism among the fanbase because we've just done Shadowlands and they seem to be doing the same thing as they did in Shadowlands. Indeed, it has to go somewhere. And hopefully it's going to go into the right directions, but we can't say. We can't say until the expansion is out and until the story's been told. Brother Loken, as you requested, I offer the following report on the progress toward our objectives. I'm pleased to say that the halls of infusion are now operational, though the work of imbuing order magic into the wellspring is only the beginning. I remain optimistic that the process will prove effective. Already. Sorry. Already, we are detecting reduced levels of contamination. I hope your investigation into how Yogg-Saron compromised these living waters will yield answers. In the meantime, we can be assured that the evolution of another Galakrond will not be triggered by consuming unfiltered water. Once purification is complete, an additional benefit will be found in offering the infused water to dragonkind. By ingesting the water, or causing their eggs to absorb its effects, it should be possible to keep even the most willful dragons aligned with the Titan's philosophies. Our efforts to bring the proto-dragons in line have faced resistance, but I am formulating a strategy to speed the process along. Construction of the facility atop the halls of infusion is proceeding apace. Though the station is to be designated Uldoros, I must reluctantly report that the dragons have taken to calling the structure by the name Tierhold. I will do my best to ensure our Titan-forged workforce does not also adopt this embarrassing pseudonym. But as of late, they seem to be expressing more and more opinions of their own. Oh, no! In closing, let me underscore once again how fervently I disagree with the assertions of Prime Designate Odin, considering the unsuitability of the dragon aspects. I have ever confidence that they will prove fervent allies in our shared goals of keeping the world structured and disciplined. Ever your friend, Keeper Tyr. Yikes. Okay. So, is it a retcon? It's a little bit different, but then again, it's more like information that we didn't know before. As I mentioned earlier, Odin was not down with the plan of the Keepers to empower the dragon aspects. So Odin took a wing of Ulduar up into the sky, set and pouted in his halls of valor. Odin was a bit of a word that I can't say. But Keeper Tyr was more of a nice guy. Keeper Tyr saw the problem of Galakrond, and he was like, Proto-Dragon's friends, help me out. And together, they fought against Galakrond to try to save the world. He lost his hand for the trouble, and he seemed to be okay. And he seemed to be like, yo, would you like to become Dragon Aspects? We could always use your help, and then they empowered it. However, this document, signed by Keeper Tyr, shows him to be a bit of a as well, as they are using water to control proto-dragons, as they're very much about controlling these aspects, about controlling these dragons. And it almost makes you wonder, like, were the dragons ever given a choice to become the aspects to begin with, which then flows in line with, well, what about their whole storyline? The whole mission given to the aspects, because at this point in time, it's basically like the wild elements, freedom versus the empowered dragons order. but they are empowered by choice because they work together with Tyr, because they were like a team up and they followed the will of the Titans and the Keepers because they wanted to. If we're now going to go with the idea of their bathwater had some sort of controlling effect on them, then how would the dialogue of you are just a puppet of the aspects actually has merit? Which then makes you wonder, like, look, we just found these reports. Alexstrasza, are you sure that you want us to go into this raid and that you want us to go and clear out Razagev? Alternatively, we could turn around, go to the Seat of the Pantheon and take care of the Titans. I mean, your call, your Alexstrasza mommy, right? So, curious how that's gonna go. And of course, here we have the confirmation of what exactly mutated Galakrond. We are detecting reduced levels of contamination. I hope your investigation into how Yogg-Saron compromised these living waters will yield answers. So there are these waters. They were compromised by Yogg-Saron. And now we can be assured, since they're now filtering the water and they've, reducing the contamination, that something like a Galakrond will not be triggered again. So Yogg-Saron caused Galakrond to happen. I don't know, like I was kind of hoping for Galakrond to have a bigger impact in the form of something unknown, something that could still come to the surface. Now, knowing as Yogg-Saron and Yogg-Saron is gone, could there be a new Galakrond? I don't know. I was kind of, but that may be my fault. My imagination was running wilder than, oh yeah, Yogg-Saron did it. And it's kind of ironic when you think about the Curse of Flesh. So in this report, they talk about the emergence of fleshy creatures, unlike their perfect stony baloney creations, right? The Titan Forged. It's a little bit ironic that they would be spreading the Curse of Flesh amongst their Titan Forged, creating creatures like the dwarves, like the gnomes, like the humans and all that. Fellow Watchers, when you were assigned to observe the state of our Titan Forged subjects who, regretfully, fell under the influence of flesh, that Curse of Flesh, the Keepers could not have anticipated the effort necessary to follow them as they spread throughout the world. I shall do my best to ensure your perseverance is recognized, but for now, you are to continue your duties until a new directive is authorized. It is apparent from your reports that the degree of transformation in Titan Forged subjects is significantly diverse. There is no group in which this variance is more easily observable than the Earthen. While some have succumbed entirely to the malady, such as the Earthen, who emerged from Uldaman and called themselves dwarfs, others remain resistant, whether in full or in parts. One particular notable variant can be found in the Earthen contingent dispatched to investigate the fissure detected in Sector AR-938. For further details, search records related to geological anomalies. In the course of our duties, these Earthen began to manifest behaviors analogous to those which would one day be apparent in the cell-style dwarfs, despite the two groups being separated by vast swaths of time and distance. Y'all keeping up with this? In fact, based on their origin dates, I could identify no correlation between these populations. No correlation at all between these populations. Yet, while their behaviors, language, and demeanor show many similarities, for example, assigning Sector AR-938 the collegial name Kas Algar, physiologically, the two groups remain distinct. It is this distinctiveness due to exposure to the unique qualities of the anomaly, or is there any other reason? We require more data before a conclusion can be reached. As ever, your aid in this analysis remains invaluable. Remember, we are the eyes of the Titans. Respectfully, Watcher Melania. So, as far as I know, the Watcher is new, and Kas Algar is also a new area, right? Yeah. So, long story short, basically what they're saying is they were observing two groups of Earthen, or dwarves, or whatever, and even though they were spread separately from location as well as time, the evolutionary paths show some similarities, but also some massive differences. And it kind of almost seems like they were describing, like we were talking about this on Discord yesterday as well. Like, you know how Magni turned into a crystal? Imagine that these dwarves evolved into a crystalline form, similar to how the crystals that we see behind Ferazane, or, you know, different distinguished looks for the dwarves, something like that. So it's more of the idea of same anomaly, different kind of evolutions. So that could easily flow into a new allied race, or maybe like a skin or a customization for the dwarves. Okay, so to my staunchest allies, were it not impossible, one might think its ancient home to be stained by tears. My noble friends, forgive me for keeping secrets, but I instructed Sentinel Talundras to withhold this message until it safely reached your destination. If you're reading this, then our worst fears have been realized. I have fallen to our foes, murdered on the orders of treacherous Loken. But fear not, for I prepared for this dark eventuality. Along with the disc of Norganon that you carry, I've hidden another disc that holds a record of my own memories. Talundras will ensure it's safeguarded within the depths of Uldaman until such a time as it can be safely retrieved. I've fashioned the Refti to be unquestioningly loyal to me. Before departing Valdrakken, I left the gift in the care of the dragon aspects. Though they are unaware of its true purpose, the artifact can be used within the halls of Udurus to outwit Loken's malignant schemes. When it's safe to do so, bring my memory disc back to Udurus and retrieve the item I gave to the aspects. You will know what to do next. Dearest Irenaya and most noble Arcadus, I place my trust in you. When we stand together, nothing can overcome our unity. Yours always, Tyr. This seems to be talking about the disc of Norganon had like recorded history on it, and then the other disc combined with the disc that we find in this dungeon was supposedly able to restore the aspect's powers, but the disc goes poof and lost in time. Is that how Nosdormu becomes Moruzant? Interesting.